let's cut to, they asked me to put up our logos, but let's get rid of that. We're done with these now, right, Carla?
Sure.
Get rid of logos. Great. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about AEM for mobile. So different approaches to creating mobile apps that are founded around AEM. You kind of got the lowdown on who's here, but when we're talking about mobile, we're talking about a complete user journey. And so for us to be able to do that, we need creative, we need design and strategy, we need technology, and we need data marketing, especially when it's AEM based. So I asked two of our top partners to join us today. And then Lauren will come up and talk to us when we're on to our last sample. So today we're going to look at 4 apps, 4 projects, and each of them use AEM in different ways to solve a mobile user journey. I think this is kind of clear, but I also think it's a nice way to see how the 3 pieces of the puzzle kind of overlap and integrate. So when you want to create a true user journey for something, it's really going to be, it's got to be authentic, and so that starts with brand design, brand authenticity. We need to be very clear, so we do that with language and really good navigation. It's got to resonate, so design, user interface is critical. It's got to work beautifully, right? I've got work beautifully technology, but that's a massive piece of the puzzle, and that's easy to say. But that's critical too. So if a project looks great and it's really engaging, but it's not getting done what you need to do, then it doesn't matter anymore. It has to be personally relevant, so we do that with data. And digital marketing is also critical. And then it's got to succeed, and so that's testing and improving. The first app that we want to talk about is for Terumo. So founded in 1921, Terumo is a leading provider of global, innovative medical devices. So our client Terumo already had AEM sites, and they wanted to extend their reach into mobile. So they used AEM Mobile to create this sales enablement app. So this is the first piece that we want to take you through. I'll just show, I'm going to go to the live app, but I just want to show a couple of slides of it as well. Some of the values of this app for them, because they already had AEM and they had their assets set up in AEM, was to be able to use this for a mobile execution and to have one source of content creation. And for Terumo, this was very important because they have regulated content. Right? So it was really critical. Once something's approved, it needs to go out to all channels. Okay. One other thing I like about this app, and we'll show you as we go into it, but it's designed to guide a salesperson into a guided user journey. So we start with a disease state, then we move into a different approach, then we go into product, and I'll show you live in the app. But what this did as a sales enablement tool is it got all of their sales force on the same page, and it created a guided user journey. So when someone's across with their app, when a doctor is talking to them, it's going to steer how they want to move. And then I have here, Remy steps in.
Sure.
And I'll throw up the app
I
while
thought you were
Remy
going to throw up
steps
the
in.
app while I was doing that. Okay,
Yeah.
so once they got the nice design from SEGAL SAVAD, one of the things that Terumo really wanted to do was to get more personal, to make it more personal for their users, so the salespeople themselves could customize it. The immediate thing they wanted to do is add basics like favoriting. So while they're in the app in front of somebody, they can favorite what the person's responding the best to. We also talked about adding note-taking, which is still a future. I think we actually, not sure if we actually implemented that for them. But that level of personalization was important. And the other thing they were really looking for was deeper analytics. So they really wanted to keep track of what people were using. When we actually started implementing that for them, by allowing users to log in and tracking who was using what and everything like that, it became very evident right away that they also wanted, because this was going to be externally facing as well, some of the content, they wanted to see what content was getting played on their website by users as well. So they, instead of moving from just to analytics, Adobe Analytics for mobile, they actually moved whole hog to Adobe Analytics for mobile and web, and they moved their websites over to the analytics as well. So they had a normalized platform to view all their consumer data and their user data, so they could see in one place how it was getting played, what the salespeople were using, what customers were looking at, and it was all in one place. That was really powerful. That was really powerful.
So I'll just take a minute and go through some of the details on the app. But again, we want the salesperson, we want the dialogue to begin with disease state. You don't have to. So let's say the rep comes in and they want to just jump right to product. Fine. we don't want to tie anyone's hands, right? The salespeople need to be engaging the way that they know their customers want them to. But ideally, we want them to start with a disease state, and from there it starts to be a dialogue with the doctor. So if they want to go into, say, coronary disease, and they have different approaches. So what happens is it starts to create a logic flow as you move down, and the discussion, and while they're having the discussion, the sales rep is becoming expert at what the doctor needs, what that person wants to get done. And so by the time they get to a product, it's very relevant to the discussion they've had. And so from this way, they can start to create solutions of products. At any point, they can favorite it once they get down to this point. Kind of cool.
So you've noticed that all this content is pretty consistent, so it's based on templates and components that we built out for them. They can use on this, and they can also reuse elements of this on their website as well. So that's pretty powerful for them. The other thing I wanted to point out is the level of personalization is just an initial taste. The next step for Trumo or other companies that are doing this is really an integration with CRM. So you can start pulling down and tagging stuff as it's going through with the client you're talking to or the doctor you're talking to and the date and stuff like that. That's really powerful once you actually start doing that. You can save notes underneath the profile in Salesforce or Dynamics or something like that. That level of integration isn't really that hard, but it adds a huge amount of value in terms of keeping track of not just how people are using it, but where they're being successful. Imagine if you could not just track what people are doing, but what the most successful salespeople are doing in terms of utilizing the app, because that's really going to increase your efficiency there. That's the level of, I guess, transparency you want to get to as a corporation. That's with a sales enablement. Now you can do the same thing with consumers on it, and that's where groups like yourself gets really heavily involved.
This was a very specific
This is
use
a light
case.
lift. This is a light lift.
AEM into AEM Mobile for a very specific use case, but I think a good one. Yeah. Cool. All right, let's change gears and go to, I don't even think I want to go back to this. Do I need it? Nah, we'll go right to Barney's.
Go right to.
Okay, so now we're going to open an app that we did for Barney's New York. This goes this way. Let's see if this is going to work for me. Yeah, great. Okay, so we've been working with Barney's for a long time.
Just go to this button there.
Is it going to mess me up?
No.
Don't mess me up, right?
This can make you look good.
Oh, see, that's nice. My technology partner, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. That's why he gets the big bucks. So, Barney's is a smart retailer, right? They're doing things in stores. They have a good e-commerce site. It's very effective for them. It's working. They also have a shopping app. But one of the things that Barney's had lost, and I think a lot of retailers, some retailers out there that I know, are losing the brand experience, the days of flipping through a beautiful catalog, a magazine, right? The experience of the brand is getting lost. And so Barney's has a beautiful magazine called Barney's The Window, and it's a printed publication. And they asked us to take it and use AEM Mobile and create a digital version of it. And so this project combines, we create animations for each of the articles. And so here you really get this kind of browsing, beautiful visual experience. Oops. I want to show you more. These cool videos. But every story, once I'm engaged in a story and I'm reading the magazine, I can shop this story and I can purchase any of these items. This is just a web link back to their e-commerce site. This has been going very well. We're in our 6th issue for them. We have the ability to archive issues. Pretty cool. So at this point, the app is working, they're happy, we're moving on to other issues, but we would like to see Barney's do more with it, right? So this is where we talk about how do we create a user journey. So what this is an app. It's using AEM Mobile. It's a front-end app. This was all built without any development. Okay, so we're able to do this as creatives. This is phase 1 of what this app needs to do. And so some of the things that we'd like to see Barney's do is to create more of a customer experience. So for instance, this app features new collections in the windows, there's a lot of people that have the app and continue to use the app, so that's great. We have good engagement. We would like them to invite those customers in to see what's going on in the windows, meet the next designers of the next collection. So that's a way that the digital can drive an in-store experience. Then when they're in the store, we can use screens. We can open up an experience in there. Do you want to kind of?
Sure. So I mean, one of the things we're thinking about is to actually tie this in and make it, because these apps, AEM mobile apps, can be geographically aware. So geofencing, so when you walk into a Barney store, you can either do it with beacons of some sort, but that usually adds a cost to retailers, and they're not looking at adding costs right now. Geofencing is very simple. You add a geofence so that when the store person's in the store, you know that. You can get a notification. You can have a sales associate app. They're working on tablets as well, where a person gets an experience where they're greeted by somebody. They have a store associate who knows their history, who knows what they like, who knows what they've been browsing through, avoiding the creepy factor. But but at least as a knowledgeable about them and what their interests might be, and start suggesting things that are in line with what they might have been looking at. The other thing you can do, which we're working with a bit, which is a little, but this is part of the Adobe mobile experience, but they call it screens. So the idea of physical screens and controlling the physical screens in stores and allowing them to adjust and controlling them so that they adjust to who's in the store and become responsive in that way as well. So either having a greeting that's coming out for someone like someone walks in, if that's not too creepy, or to allow them to walk up to a screen and put their phone up to it and have it recognized who they are, and then start responding to their needs, allowing them to size it. Some of the things we've done as well, which is going to be very interesting for Barney's, is the idea of incorporating third-party devices such as Connect to allow you to size the individual and make suggestions on types of clothing they might be interested in wearing based on something else they're doing. Getting them to push the limits a little bit and show them new stuff. The nice thing about that is by using sort of, I'm going to call it off-the-shelf technology like Connect, eventually you can take that experience from the store that you're trying out and doing in a really exhaustive way into the home, and it gives a nice sell-in for Xbox and stuff like that for home device use as well in home shopping. Yes?
Yeah, just out of curiosity, I just wanted to say, how come sales associates in regards to don't get compensated for, the customers that come through? I mean, you go to a restaurant.
Yep.
And they mention to you, this person helped you.
Yeah.
How come that doesn't do that in retail as far as e-commerce? There's a lot of...
Because it lacks the tracking mechanism. Totally agree with that. I mean, imagine if the person that came up you could basically, you could do proximity. You could basically sense that person's the closest one to them, and they could basically start, this is now been claimed by this sales associate, that's who's helping them. It could be very
Actually,
transparent.
they do it right now. Like if you ever go to Paragon, they're always like, who helped you? And they're really trying to get their sticker on the tennis racket I just bought.
Right.
And it's a very uncomfortable experience.
But if it were...
It could all be
digital,
digitized, right? It's like I could have a
user
thing, I
friendly.
could put a tag on it, yeah.
You don't want the client to be aware of necessarily
make
the
the
cutthroat
sausage.
nature of
Yeah.
the inner workings of a store.
We do know. Come on, we're in New York. We know. That's why half of them are going belly up, because you should compensate these guys for being so helpful, and
Yeah.
attentive, and...
And
Exactly.
Thomas, as we talk about retail, feel free to pipe in.
But the
any of
idea
your
is
thoughts.
also the idea that walking away, you get an automatic push notification that says, how was your experience in the store today? Once you leave the store, the experience isn't over. You have a follow-up, and it's a relevant follow-up. It's like the Uber follow-up. How was your ride? 3, 4, 5 stars out of 5 or not? That's a simple thing to do. People are willing to do that. They're not going to fill out a little form and hand it into a box. But that makes a difference, right?
I'm good on a survey for 1 page of a survey. Once it goes to the next page, I'm done.
That's the
But
point.
yeah.
In testing too, you'll see that one call of action, very simple to do, can be done in less than 5 seconds. You'll get a very high response rate. You want multiple form fields filled out, you're never going to get anyone to respond.
And you don't know quite when it's going to end either.
But
Yeah.
imagine you walk into the store and you know that the person coming up to you has got 4.5 out of 5 stars for how they deal with the customer.
And it's the same in reverse, as a customer.
Exactly, and
Many times,
exactly.
You're annoyed for the first 25, 30 minutes, but after a while, you really do want that response.
Yes.
And most customers are annoyed all the time anyway. Well, we're all overwhelmed.
The
Gotta be
paradox is
careful.
everyone wants to be treated like they're special, but they don't want anyone to know anything about them.
Yeah, and be completely left
they want
alone.
anonymity.
Leave me
but-
alone unless I need you, and then I.
But
need
you know,
to
it's a
know
good
everything
point,
about
because
you.
once a retailer, really anyone has the trust, then you do want to be special and you want to really engage. But I always want to be left alone at first. I want a low level of engagement until I feel safe. You got to earn it.
Our experience is there's a trade-off, there's an exchange that has to happen. You have to give value to get something from the
Did you
customer,
want
which
to
would
say
be a piece of
something about
information, right? And
Yeah.
It's nice. This is one of the reasons why a lot of early mobile app development has been for internal apps, because it's a captive audience. You say you have to use this, and then 80% of your people will use it. And top performers will figure another way to do something else their own way, right? But that's the captive audience. Consumers won't, not unless you give them an incentive. Why do you need to have my email address? What am I going to get? Am I going to get more customer information? Am I going to see cool things? Am I going to get access to this? Do I get to give feedback? Okay, that feels like I'm getting that power back for myself. That's a fair exchange. So you think about that in the campaigns that you're putting together. What am I giving to get? And that's a really important part, which goes well beyond the technology. But if you want to get something, you can't just say, please give me your email address. I'm just going to use it to spam you with email for the next 2 years, right?
Yeah, and it brings up a good point too about testing, which is what we engage with our clients quite a bit on, because everything in the mobile app world, it's almost a totally open green field. You see a lot of experimentation, even more so than on the web. So people are constantly adding new features, trying to find out what works and what doesn't. So using something like Adobe Target, that's a big sort of thrust of ours, is building frameworks that makes it easier to test within the mobile app environment. Not just to offer a personalized offer, but also to test out, are we getting the reaction that we thought we would get on this particular feature? Or maybe is the feature popular for certain segments, frequent shoppers versus browsers? That little bit of testing up front, and you can do it on a very small segment of your audience, so you don't disrupt the flow all that much, can give you invaluable information. And it's surprising how many app designers or how many companies that deploy apps don't actually leverage that, because it is hard technically to get set up.
Yeah,
Once you
I
do-
think a lot of us, like speaking as an agency, we rely on the analytics. We kind of see how things are moving, and we feel like maybe that's enough.
Right.
But I think it's time for all of us, and that's why I'm bringing you on. It's like, yeah, how do we move to the next level? I mean, Lauren, I know you have thoughts on this. Tom?
All right, yeah, I just want to, before you go off, out of Barney's app.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. The shop the story function?
Yeah.
Is that is that information manually associated, those images manually associated by you or by Barney's? And are they tracking the success rate and the interaction with that kind of feature? Because at J.Crew, I worked on a back-end metadata capturing app that allowed you to shop the look on the e-commerce site, and it's proven to be really, really successful. So I'm curious if A, it has to be manually set up, and B, are they measuring the analytics, the success rate? Because at the end of the day, that's what Barney's, I assume, is going to care about.
That's what it's all
With the
about.
customer experience.
Sure.
Yeah, are they converting?
Kenya, do you want to jump on? I mean, Remy, I know you've got thoughts on this too.
Yeah, so the app version is set up manually, but all of the links are associated with their style numbers. So we had to really kind of make sure that we were in sync with their Excel sheets and all of their metadata, so that it would align with the web version of it, and they can track that.
So they're providing you the style numbers and the colors in an Excel sheet, and you're
Manually
mapping
creating.
that to that
For
particular
phase one.
For phase one.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
ideally, we would love for them to either repurpose their web content, which is already set up so beautifully, and then just kind of have it flow into
Right.
the app, or, maybe
Yeah,
there's
what we want to
some
do is
sort of
we
hybrid.
want everything, other assets set up in AEM, flowing into the app, right? It could all be
Okay.
structured and templated,
Yep.
and then so it's all automated, and then the analytics, everything's being driven. But they're happy so far with the manual workflow, even though we keep having the discussion, and that's fine. But
The other thing is that, and this is bringing it back to the technology side, Adobe with AEM in the new version 6.3 is actually making it possible to now pull in AEM content into whatever app you want as content as a service. So there is the possibility to take the e-com app that Barney's has and then insert this beautiful content into it.
Well, that's a great point. I'm going to interrupt you because and I talked to the CMO of Barney's, and one of their concerns is they have this native app that they built before AEM really was even an option. And they feel like it's splitting their traffic, and they're not sure what to do about that. And so this is what we're talking to them about now, is how do we bring the two apps together, I think would be the great solution.
meaning the app and
The original shopping app, which is basically like an online experience, but it's designed for mobile.
they have two apps.
They have two apps, right? And then they have this beautiful browsing app, which you can also shop from. So we sort of stepped on the toes of their original app.
Got it.
I don't know, I assume they would have just wanted to do the later app. But they have so many people that were already using the first app, but people love the new one done in AEM Mobile. So it's been a challenge.
Can you, and sorry, just one last, can you briefly, just on that topic, have they shared any information with you about sales regarding those apps? Obviously, it's been working for them. Have they talked about, one is, do they think it's cannibalizing their e-commerce site? Probably not, quite different.
No, the mobile I don't think is affecting the e-commerce. I think that's okay.
And they feel that year over year that the ROI is growing on these apps?
Yeah, but it's becoming a bigger problem, right? As the apps become more successful, they're fighting each other.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's about all I can really reveal. And they don't tell me everything they're thinking when we're on camera. But in terms of where they're going to go next, you know, we'll see. But at the same time, the app done with AEM Mobile, this browse, this visual experience, keeps growing and it's very successful.
But to successfully maintain this on a longer scale, as you scale up with more SKUs and everything like that, and as products change, and you know you stop selling something, you add a new line or something like that, or you split up anything, you need to get back to the core data. This is where we get involved mostly, is because we're trying to figure out what PIM system they have or what systems are they using in the back end, and extract even as basic as XML data out and create elements for each one of those entries that are then tagged the right way, so that if you're dragging and dropping them in a creative way, they're on the site and you're tracking what they're doing as they go through. And that's really where the final beauty comes along, right? It's because everything you're producing is properly tagged in a way that's going to allow you to have relevant data to track exactly what you're trying to do about how many people are clicking, and was that same person clicking on this? Did I also have a cookie for them, which is a very similar profile or a login from the website? So are they using both? Are they expecting to have a shopping cart that bridges both things? Are they using that shopping cart? All those types of things get tracked. And what types of products are those people selling? And is there a way of upselling the higher products? You want to automate as much as you can, because you have to do it manually the first time, as with anything, in order to get it right, but then you want to automate it as quickly as possible, because to scale you need to have as much of it as possible coming off of your raw sources of data.
Yeah. Although the nice thing about AEM Mobile is it does let you do a manual very quick, get it out the door, because then you have a live product and you can iterate and see what's working, as opposed to a lot of more traditionally done products. Spend so much time and money getting it out the door, and maybe it's not quite what you need. For instance, the shopping cart, right? All of these are just links back to their e-commerce site, which is fine for phase one, but ultimately we want the entire shopping experience to be in the app. Right? We want it to be
And you can't ramp up a 12-month project to make that happen after you've had success. You know, immediately, as soon as people start using it, you want to be able to do it. 3 months seems like a long time, but you can wait for 3 months, but you can't wait for 12.
Do they have a DAM, and do they generate metadata for all their selling imagery, and that is associated in their DAM, or do they not have any?
For Barney's, I'm not sure if we're allowed to say anything about that.
Yeah.
Actually.
I think we should move
Yeah.
away from retail. Yeah, let's move on to the next app. Yeah, let's not answer that. We can talk after. Okay. Okay, so the next app is an app that we did in the healthcare space. This is for Biogen. I have permission to show it. They're very nice to us. Let us show the app. So this is a patient care app. And this is done, this one's also with AEM Mobile, but this one's done in 3 phases. So what I'm showing you now is phase 1, which was done with the front end of AEM Mobile in partnership with Biogen. But phase 2,
It's likely going to be a hybrid app, so we're probably going to be generating all this content right off of their AEM, off of templates and components, so it's more scalable right off the bat. So they have a single creative unit that's actually publishing to both sites at the same time. They already have a lot of templates and components set up for their website, so it shouldn't be a big lift. And I'd say that any client that's already doing AEM along those lines should be looking at that. There is a need to iterate quickly, especially in mobile, to find out what needs to be done differently in mobile. And AEM Mobile can really provide some value along those lines with the tools that Harry uses in InDesign and stuff like that. But ultimately, to scale, you need to get into using templates and components and publishing that way. So a hybrid app is
yeah.
really going to work.
So what we're going to show you here is it's the front end prototype. It all works. It could be a live app, but it doesn't have the personalization. It's not built the way this app ultimately will, because it's a pretty complex app ultimately. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, in addition to the personalization features, privacy and security are obviously front of mind for this as well. And one thing, not to totally tread back into the Barney's world, but one of the points that you brought up about templatizing and making things automated really ramps up the data quality that you can collect within the app. That's one of the big challenges that our clients deal with, is that their data collection methodology has so many holes that it's really hard to make good decisions with it, let alone getting to the personalization side. So we always say that laying that sort of framework and the data collection kind of underpinnings of everything really pays off down the line. It's going to be kind of ugly work, and you're not going to want to do it, and it's going to kind of be a pain and non-glamorous. No one ever gets a gold medal for doing a really great data collection
Is this how you
framework.
feel when you're in the room?
Yeah, it is.
The drudgery.
But at the end of the day, this is you always have to look what's the 2 or 3 projects down the line, and when you get into personalization, when you get into things that could be very sensitive recommendations when you're dealing with healthcare and long-term diseases, this is something that becomes even more paramount when you try to accomplish those goals in the future. And AEM, of course, makes this world a lot easier, because previously you'd have a lot of just custom development. Things would hang together in weird ways. It'd be very hard to accomplish that sort of data collection and data framework. AEM standardizes it, makes it almost simple. You'd still have to pay someone like us to do it.
Almost simple
But
with,
almost
with the
simple,
right
not quite
experts.
simple, yeah.
That's true. All right, cool. So let me take you through the prototype. So the first thing that we did for them, so this was built for Biogen to be able to show to their different brands, to see, to work with AEM Mobile as a solution and to create this app and to turn this into a real project. So this is a new big initiative of theirs, Above MS, and it's a caregiver app and a patient app. And so it's got 2 different audiences. So the first thing I'll do on this app is if we go into account, and then depending on who we've signed in, we've made it so you can come in as a patient, okay, and you're gonna have a personalized home screen when you come in, and that's gonna be personalized based on what you flag as favorites, and I'll show an example, but it's also gonna be based on analytics and some things used more. It's gonna start to make recommendations and push things to the front. But if I log in as a caregiver, so that was a patient, and there's an entire caregiver section. This is kind of support for caregivers. This is kind of it's a big deal to really have someone close in your life with MS that you're caring for. So this is a section for them. Okay, so if I go into...
While you're doing that,
Yeah.
I'll talk. So some of the stuff that Harry just talked about, you don't need AEM Mobile for. You can use something called Adobe Mobile, which is the mobile SDK, to get some of that personalization. So push notifications, in-app messaging, and things like Target, you can get from Adobe Mobile, which is the mobile SDK. And that really drives right off of the analytics that you have there and uses Target and things like that. So there is a thing you can add to any app you have. You can have a natively developed app and include the SDK in there, and you can have that level of personalization. You won't have the AEM ability to drag and drop templates and create content and modify content and have this type of look and feel. But if all you're looking for is that level of personalization as a first step, you can use the SDK and incorporate it into any app you want to build there.
That
You will
SDK
need
is-
you need to have analytics or Target to use
Yep.
those functions, but to use in-app messaging and push notifications, you don't. So it's kind of cool.
It's one of the more powerful pieces of software that Adobe produces that they don't get a lot of credit for, because there's a lot of independent small app data providers that will give you some analytics or give you some push notifications. In our experience, if you have the Adobe SDK, you don't need a lot of those smaller providers. You can get an 80% functionality for something like push messaging than from a dedicated push messaging vendor, which for app life cycles, you want to get it out quick. If you already have the SDK in, great, don't have to spin up something new. And also, if you're already familiar with the SDK or have people that are familiar with the SDK, very easy to flip those things on.
And also just to point out, a lot of people now, depending on the market segment you're trying to serve, some people are actually going with an app-first mentality, because not everybody has computers, but everybody has a smartphone this day. That's the kind of thinking they have. So if you use that, you can actually get very powerful core set of tools there for what I consider to be, don't have to tell Adobe this, but a very reasonable price right now. It's almost the best price thing they have right now. And you can get a lot of value out of it, do some testing, get it out. And it's only when you really start to scale to massive numbers, like millions and millions of hits per day or month or something like that, the costs start to go up. But then you've got the volume, you've got the value proven, right? So early on, it's a very valuable way to use testing and targeting. Try it.
You guys make me much smarter. Now I'm going to show pretty stuff. So if we go into diet and recipes, we'll see here, and if I go into salmon, so we kind of created a nice experience here. Canyon, did you work on this app with us?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
With
And I can favorite this at the top, and so then here's just an example of how that would pop up when I'm on my home. If we go back to treatment options, okay, we have a web link for different experiences. I don't want to go off the app right now. And MS 101, so this is a nice place to have libraries of content and videos. So these apps are a really great place to kind of repurpose other existing content and give them more value. Something we really try and do with all of our mobile stuff. And if we go into resources, I go here, so I can choose webinars or I can choose live events or both. And I think we set this up for Nevada because we were at Summit actually when we first showed this. So here are the different things. This is going to use geo-targeting, right? This is going to know where you are. It's going to know what kind of things are going to be relevant to you. And I can sign up for this, register for it. That's a web link. It wants me to sign in. And I can add it to my calendar, right, using the Cordova plugin.
Yep.
Go back to the app. And then the last thing I'll show on this app is we set it up so that from the home screen, I'll let you guys jump on it, you can get a push notification that pops up. And that again will take you right into events and different things that you might want to do.
So how many people here are familiar with what Cordova is? A couple, okay. So for those that aren't, Cordova is basically a library that Adobe makes available. It's actually an open source library, which is available that will allow you to use HTML that basically access local device functionality. So things like a GPS or a camera or the camera on a phone or access to calendaring or contacts or things like that. So there's a whole set of pre-written modules that will allow you to do this. So you don't have to code it and figure out how to do it natively each time. So it's kind of like a Meccano set or a Lego set for how do you build apps. It's kind of cool and it works very well. I mean, there's virtually no difference between Cordova access to something and a native access in terms of speed, what you'll notice, everything like that, which is pretty cool. That's just to let you know, because you use the term in
Cordova.
I have a bad habit of using terms and not defining them, so I found it.
Yep, sounds good.
I always think of the Chrysler Cordova.
Yes, I think of Ricardo Montalban.
Yes. Rich Corinthian.
Shows my age, yes. I think of Fantasy Island.
We good? Should we move on to the
Yeah.
last
Yes.
app? Okay, so we have one more to show. We're cool. So we hit a little healthcare. So I'm going to ask our client, Lauren, to come up. Lauren
My
Freifeld.
iPad.
Yeah, and so let's jump to unique luxury. And I'm just going to say, so this is a little bit different than we want to show next. Let me just call this up. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Look at that. Isn't that cool on the wall? I like that. Okay. So, Lauren, I'll have you explain Unique, but Lauren was our client. She's also a friend and an associate who was acting CMO, right, to launch this company, Unique. And so what we're going to show you now is not actually an app, although an app's part of it, but we want to show a user journey, right? And I think it's kind of where, in my thinking, mobile is going away from, yeah, let's do an app for a sales associate app, right? It's going to be more, what's the journey that we want a customer to take? And I think this is a great example.
Yeah, and just to give you context too, and also to give you the client, marketer's perspective on AEM and where and how this tool worked. So there's a little bit of background on Unique. It's a startup luxury marketplace. When I joined as CMO, like any startup, started with the founder, his vision and his idea, and I joined the company, and they had a 40-page PowerPoint and his hand waving to try to explain the concept. When I saw the platform, it was a PC-based platform with really, not only was the idea of a PC-based platform like not a good one, but also it was not even designed well. And having known Harry and the work and being familiar with AEM Mobile, I called up Harry and said, I think I need your help to help pivot this to being more mobile first. And so what was great about AEM Mobile from my perspective is, once I explained to the CTO and the CEO the power of this, we were able to develop the first one of the app in like weeks, like literally in about 2 weeks. We had a demo version of the app, which is for a startup that's trying to get members and partners. That's literally changed the trajectory of the company, because all of a sudden, not only did I take the 40-page PowerPoint and turn it into a 10-page one and develop a better elevator pitch, but really having the app to go to potential partners and members, and like, this is real, this isn't a concept, but this is what this marketplace is going to look like. It was a complete game changer, and all of a sudden from that point on, we were able to get people on board. And so from my perspective as a marketer, I just had to working with the great talent of Harry and his team, focus on the design and the beauty of designing the app. And all I knew was like I had never done anything with technology that I was able to get such fast turnaround. I mean, it was miraculous to me. I mean, how quickly we were able to evolve and keep building out this app. So as a marketer, it was amazing, because I was used to experiences where you have to then talk to the developer and they have to write the code, and like all this time goes by, and by the time you see it, I know it's frustrating to technical people, but by the time the time you see the technology, the marketers we've already changed our mind, right? And so in this case, that development pace was able to be so much faster that we didn't run into those problems, and we were very quickly able to just really evolve the company along with this app.
I think it was also really important, Lauren, because it's a new venture, right? We were able to work with the owner of the company, we were able to work together. We added an entire new section. We were like, well, maybe we need rewards to be separate from redeem, right? And so we could completely change things. So it was very nimble.
Yeah,
That was
exactly,
important.
because we were kind of, evolving things and changing things as we're working. So it wasn't like all this code had to be redone. It was like, can we change the way this works? And I would, explain it to, Harry, Kenya, and then like 2 days later, I would see like a new design of it,
Yeah.
and we were able to have it be live in the app, which was, I had never experienced anything, like that, which was, pretty incredible. And as I say, just for any business, that kind of turnaround would be important, but as I say, for a startup that's trying to gain momentum, it was really critical.
Yeah. So let me take you through the user journey. Do you want to just briefly explain what unique luxury
Oh,
is?
sure. So, I guess coming from NetJets, having been in this ultra high net worth world, unique luxury is sort of going after the same sort of super high net worth group. It's connecting high net worth individuals with luxury brands in high consideration type categories like private jets, yachts, high-end homes, watches. And the idea is it's a membership-based program where members become members of Unique, and we connect them with partners, and Unique is sort of the interface that connects the partners to the members, and then basically Unique provides curation, savings, and rewards. So curation is we work with the luxury partners to cull down the products that are being offered. We're able to pre-negotiate savings because we're bringing to these luxury brands a set of qualified high net worth buyers, which it's very high net worth audiences are very inefficient to reach because they're very dispersed, so it's hard to. So because we were bringing them a captive audience of people that were qualified, we were able to negotiate savings. And that we were able to pass on to the members, and then
One nice thing about that is we have a very passionate audience, right? So we were able to really do some stuff. I mean, one of the challenges of, say, an app is how do you get someone to download it? How do you get someone to engage it? So we work, for insurance companies. We do report to policyholders. People really want to download an app, report to policy. That's not a good use case for it, but a beautiful browsing experience. So let's go through the user journey.
And so just to make it clear, also as a member, you would get. You would join and you would get this amazing welcome kit that included an iPad with the app already loaded, right? So the app was really the window into the marketplace, and it was sort of like a digital magazine, so you could see all of the things that would be available.
Well, so the first thing we created, right, along the user journey was the brand identity, okay? And we also did corporate, so collateral, just a print magazine, print collateral, right? What is Unique? Why become a member? Why is it relevant to you? And we did a very simple website, okay? This was a 6 parallax scroll pages that explain the company. So at that point, if you're interested in becoming a member, as Lauren said, you get this beautiful oversized case. We should have brought one of the cases. I think we have one, right? They're like a lot of money each. But anyway, so we get this oversized case, and inside you get an oversized iPad, with the app on it, as well as corporate collateral. And you can browse and move through the app. And if we have time, I'm happy to hook up the app. It's very cool.
And we had, great visuals and assets, right? Luxury brands have great photography and all that, so we had a lot of,
Everything
beautiful-
moves, everything's interactive, it's all very engaging. And so the point of the app was to guide you to contact your own personal shopper. Okay, so I see something, a car, a watch, I'm interested. You have a dedicated shopper, and then you move into the showroom. And so the digital and the physical experience coming together, which is really what a mobile journey is about, right? So once in the showrooms, they're beautiful, the showroom's amazing. We created digital screens, and Remy may talk about screens at some point. We'll see. I know David's gonna say things. But, so you could compare two cars, there's a table where you can put a yacht down, and you have all of these things that come up around a yacht. So it's a very interactive experience. We didn't do virtual reality, but bet you they're gonna, this is the perfect
Yeah,
place
for real estate,
VR.
of course, we had a lot of discussion
Yeah,
about
like,
that,
you know,
letting
film with the
see,
drone, and then you have
what
the
the home
goggles.
would be like, that's happening on and developing.
And the owner had a really great vision, which I thought was very cool, for one room where you would see your villa, you'd have the experience, but then it would use geo-targeting to know where you were, and it would find local interior designers, so like all the resources, partnerships of Unique, to come and create your entire home for you.
You could buy the furniture through Unique and all the other things you might want.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. What else? That's it for Unique. You want to add anything else?
No,
You
I
talked
think,
about
I think the
screens a
screen,
little
the
with
screens
Barney's, right?
application made sense there. I think your virtual reality or augmented reality would have been really valuable there. But yeah, the other thing which I think you guys touched on, but I never mentioned it formally, is one of the things that AEM Mobile gives you is this ability of content sync. So the idea that you can update the app at a very basic level with a lot of core content, even change how the UI looks at the home screen without actually issuing a new app. So you don't have to go back through the App Store pain in the butt, right? You can basically issue it. You can change the entire layout. You can even create a level of personalization in the app, changing how the UI looks for that person, prioritizing different pieces, even removing entire parts of the UI without actually uploading a different app or without creating a different version of the app. So there are some very powerful things to do with personalization and how you can push content that we take for granted now, having worked with the tool for like a few years, but that are really basically very valuable and still kind of unique in terms of how you can get content out there. It's a very strong use case versus, say, a natively developed app. Not only do you not have to develop for all the different platforms like you might have to do, even if you use like one of those Xamarins or something like that and develop for all the platforms off one code base, you still have to compile and build those code bases. The tool allows you to compile once and basically deploy, and then basically also allow you to keep that content synced so the content is actively updated on a daily basis, on an hourly basis.
And that's going to become more important as they have multiple
Right.
cities and locations where this is happening.
So it
and
makes sure that
partnership
you're not exactly
becomes too much to manage.
Now, initially, that's really important from a sales perspective. They have to have the most up-to-date information, but consumers also want to have the most up-to-date information.
So, before I just say, at some point in time, apps will become customized. Her app, I can shop at Barney's on their app, go to Polo Bar, have brunch, they have an app for that.
Yep.
You see what apps are customized?
The apps feel customized. I think that the framework is there, and then you get content served up to you based on, it's almost like a website type of thing where you get
We're also
content
talking
served
about
up
apps
to you.
and mobile
Figure
web.
it out, so it's, at some point, there's gonna be a customization.
Right.
Of all these preferences that you have.
Right.
Based on the recommendation. Well, based on their recommendation, with your choice.
I think it's going to be both. It's going to be based on your choices and also what you actually do. Like it's
Yeah.
going to,
Yeah.
we're going to use AI, right? It's going to track you and follow what's happening. It's going to respond.
It's going to make suggestions, I think, to what you might want to do.
Are you asking, like you're saying that does it make more sense if you had all those kind of preferences on your phone or whatever,
At
and
some
then every
point,
app
there's
you
gonna be a
have
balance
looks at that?
between what you're choosing to do and what's being recommended based on based on the tracking mechanisms that are out there.
Yep.
You go to the Polo Bar, say once every other week to have lunch, and then you go to Barney's and through her website. There's gonna be a balance. You may not go to the stores or buy Aston Martin today, but they're always on her website through the app. Eventually, they're gonna start to say, you know what I'm trying to say? There's gonna be a balance.
Yeah.
You see that happening in the future, customizing? when they build apps that customize the fact that, you know, this is what your pattern is.
Yeah.
Based upon, you know.
That's what's already happening.
Yeah, we see that today where what the visitor says their preference is contradicts the analytics that we collect on that visitor. Where it's like, you say you're really interested in Aston Martins, you're not, you're interested in watches. Like you say you like Aston Martins, but you look at a lot of watches. And so how do you create a
But you
campaign
travel,
towards
you
that?
go, I mean, they have,
Right.
Louis Vuitton in Paris. In New York, but there's one in Paris. So you travel. You have to be able to aggregate all that data at some point and customize apps to you know,
Yeah.
you can see that happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the tricky parts is going to be the back end that you have to put
Yeah.
behind all this. As a content producer, think about this. How do you test out all those things to make sure it's all working out before the app goes live? Make sure they're working based on this profile, that profile, and the other thing. One of the things we discussed with somebody today, which was interesting, is like, as soon as I use Target or something like that in an app, it messes me up because one of my executives might look at it and see one thing, and another executive's looking at the other thing, and he's seeing another thing, and he's commenting on that. He's saying, "How come that's showing up for me, and I can't see it because I got a different profile from him unless I go in." So you get two executives with the same app that have different information in it.
Different experience.
It's very cool, but it can also be a bit mind bending
Right.
if you are not. If you don't have the ability to override it in some way for certain types of groups, it really adds complexity to the process. So you need to have a very powerful tool set on the creative side and on the testing side to really allow you to get there so you're still producing good content.
And I actually have a question for you guys. So we're in this world now, and Adobe's creating the power, right, with a lot of the digital marketing tools to really figure out what you're doing and what you want to see and give that back to you, right? And that's amazing. That's where many things are going. But at what point do we lose the point of view of the artist, of the marketer, of the strategist? Because a lot of times, if everyone's doing this on an app, does that mean that's what they're interested in, or does it mean you haven't shown them this properly? And you need to respond and make a change?
Well, so first, as a marketer, I love all this data, but there's the creepiness factor that we still have to deal with as well, right? There's this, you have to do it in a way that feels like you're serving someone's interest without, like, how do they know this about me, or I didn't really want them to do this, or so there's that overlay as well, which as a marketer, I've had to face a couple of different times. How do you use the information that you have? Because sometimes even though you have it, it's kind of too creepy to use it.
You don't want them to know, yeah.
So that's, but I think, and then sometimes, as you just pointed out, sometimes what people think the analytics are something different, and so I often wonder if people are so funneled down to one thing, there needs to be a way where they can see the broader context, because if they had a broader set of information or knew your broader offerings, they might be interested in something else. But if you so take them down a path, they miss out on this other stuff because everything is so fine-tuned. So there needs to be a way to sort of still remind them of the breadth of your offering, but still let them know that, we know you're really interested in this, but oh, by the way, we have these other things too, because life events happen, people's change, whatever, depending on the category. So that's, a challenge is if you can make it too narrow, then you're missing out on cross-selling them on something that they may not realize that they might want.
I mean, one thing I can say to us and to everyone out there, it's like, okay, we're happy to be the experts up. I was at the last one of these listening to other experts up here. But this world is all moving so fast that we're all learning, we're all figuring it out. There's new opportunities all the time. I think having strategic alliances, getting really good partnerships is really critical as we move forward, right? Because it's like we need different kinds of expertise. And I think we need to be having these questions and discussions. Like, what is best? What do we want to do?
And I also think it's important to have those conversations cross-generationally as well, because I think the creepiness factor is completely different for a 20-year-old versus a 50-year-old. There's a completely different acceptance level. There's also a different expectation of what they're going to get back and how fast that's going to be relevant to them and how quickly you're going to iterate and get them exactly what they want. So I do think that getting that extra generation, getting a wide range, it's not focus group necessarily, but making sure that in your creative process and in your marketing process, you incorporate all the elements that are going to be in your audience are really important.
And in contrast, the other thing that I've seen in this market I've had to talk to my teams about a lot is if you ask for data, you better use it, because the more you ask for, there's an expectation that you're doing something with it. So if you're asking for something and then not using it, that's
And I think that's very common. We talk to a lot of clients that they put the analytics in place and all the tools in it, and they don't check them. They don't look at that.
And so
Even
it's sort of
big
like,
co- big
you know,
com-
you
companies
have
we
to be
work with.
careful about raising the expectations. It's like better not to ask for something if you're not going to use it, but if you asking for some sort of interest or behavior, then you better act on it to make it work out, because this whole give and take, whether they're giving their email or they're telling you what kind of products they're interested in, whatever they give you, you ought to need
And
to
I'll add
think
another
about.
point too. You have to start with the corporate culture of where you're really at. I mean, there's some companies we talk to, and Adobe's got this vision, or we'll have a digital technology vision of transformation, but the reality is they're out there with a brochure and a PowerPoint deck. Big companies, right? And it's like, you need to map out a plan. So I think it's important to be able to have the end game in mind and be really clear where you want to go, but also have actionable steps. Like, okay, this is going to count as success within 1 year. Let's do that towards this.
Yep.
That's
That's
a
critical.
big way that I describe what we do is you almost have like an infinite variable set of possibilities that you could capitalize on. And also on your point too, if you collect data, there's no excuse not to use it. People will get mad if you don't use it. If you ask them their preferences over and over again, try that and see how long your app lasts on their device. I mean, it won't.
Right.
And it is moving so quick, and it's, you know, orchestration is something I see on the horizon where, you know, you have a lot of different ways that you can market to an individual. What's the best way? When do you stop trying to run a test on them, for instance, when you've identified like, well, they're about to buy an Aston Martin. I'm just going to go full hog with Aston Martin for a while. I'm going to forget about the luxury watches right now. You know, these are all still open questions. No one's solved them yet. I haven't met anyone that's done it. And one other interesting point too is there's a big segment of the population that already believes that all of their conversations are being listened to, all of this stuff is being tracked, businesses are doing this. It was a friend of mine who drove by a Krispy Kreme that had just opened up on the street. He's like, oh man, Krispy Kreme. Got home and he started seeing pop-up ads for Krispy Kreme. And as much as I wanted to tell him, no, they ran a local ad campaign because you're in the area, he's like, no. They tracked my car as I drove by the Krispy Kreme, and then the GPS heard me say, hey, they opened a Krispy Kreme, and now I'm getting pop-ups. And I could not convince him that technologically that wasn't really that possible.
Yeah.
He was convinced that that's what happened.
And his wearable showed his sugar level.
Yeah, exactly.
Thomas,
Glucose
yeah,
is
what's
low.
up?
I have a question, I don't know, for the CMO of Unique Luxury, or just, you know, coming from that, where your perspective is. A lot of brands, and I'm not sure if yours is this way, but have a voice in a lot of different platforms now. You kind of have to be in every sort of platform. You know, it's email, it's e-commerce, maybe it's a printed piece, it's Instagram, it's possibly Snapchat, it's Facebook. And I'm wondering if, just a sort of broader question, would it be, I just imagine in the future, because you do have to kind of be in all those places, but I imagine in the future, you're going to kind of want to go to one place for this brand or any brand. And I would think it'd be an app is where you want to do that. Is there any talk or conversation about having all those voices out there, because you're hitting different targets and different segments of your audience, but is there a talk of like also bringing that, consolidating it into the app so you can, within the app, can access your latest blog posts or social media, whatever it is, so you don't, it's like a one-stop shop where the whole Unique Luxury or whatever brand is in that one container?
So, you know, I guess just in general, I think it goes back to the customer journey and what makes sense and what's logical. You know, so it's hard to. So, I think if there's, you know, like for this Unique, the way it is set up, it does make sense for efficiency and simplicity, give people one home place where they can get all of the information, and we did design it to be the app. They really, you know, the website is really more about prospecting, so we did design the business around the app being the home place and all the information there. So for Unique, we did try to do that, but I think for other brands and other products, that might not work because you have a much different type of customer base, and you just really have to think through the customer journey and what makes sense for what they're looking for when. I mean, right? I mean, if people, you don't want to force them to go to a place that's not fits in with the logic of how they would.
It really
be looking for
depends
a
on the
product.
audience. It depends on the product. So an app, right, it can be incredibly powerful if you have a dedicated audience. So in the case of Unique, we do. So that the app can be part of a user journey. We need the screen, we need the website, we need to do all the pieces, but the app's going to be 70% of the experience. We can create social communities of people that love yachts, right? We can do an event where we learn about antique watch building. So that's really rich. We're talking right now to the Rhode Island School of Design, right? We're talking about an alumni app for them. That's a dedicated user base. We can do it. I'm going to download that app. I went there, right? It's going to be great. But what do you do when it's an insurance company, right? They're not going to download an app about your different products that I don't want to throw out a name of a client. That's not going to happen. And so then it probably needs to be other tools, right? And other mechanisms. So it depends. How do you get someone to download an app, to be engaged with it? If you can do that, the opportunities to engage with them are endless. You have push notifications, you have response mechanisms. It's wonderful. And that's why I think there's also a big move now that's moving towards mobile web, right? There's a lot of shifts that are happening. You know, are people on their tablet? Everyone thought tablet was going to be the thing, right? Now they're more on their phone, but these are going to disappear. You know, right now we have the ability. I think it's Sony that's coming out this spring. I'm on tape, but don't hold me to this. But with projected environment, so you can project an interactive screen onto a wall, right? So very soon we're going to get off of these devices. It's going to be kind of wherever we are, how we're going to engage.
And just the evolution of mobile apps too. You're going to get into more data services and less apps. It'll be less hopping around app to app to app. It'll be more, well, what data sets can this app offer to the mobile operating system to let me know, for instance, that an event's coming up that I'm nearby. All of this is sort of converging together. Augmented reality, I agree too, will be absolutely massive. I mean, virtual reality is one thing, it's really cool. Augmented reality, overlaying data on top of what you're already seeing, that's going to be, you know, amazing what people will come up with in terms of experimentation. Like you were talking about being able to buy the furniture in a house you're looking at. Well, imagine renting a house and just turning on that augmented reality app, and you can look at the prices of all the furniture, you know, flip it around, look at all the details. That stuff's coming very soon.
Yeah, I was in the
hardware's
Samsung store, and you got a refrigerator. It's got a panel that shows you what's in your refrigerator, and that's tied in to let you know when you're down on things, and it can actually order for you. And you can set all of that up, right? And then it just becomes delivered to your door. I mean, it's pretty cool. It's intimidating, but as long as we're willing to keep learning, we're willing to partner with the expertise that we need, you know, then keep doing stuff, man.
I had a vision of my wife going, "There's more pudding at the door. Have you eaten all the pudding?" Yeah. That's
That's just a lot of tracking. It's like, a lot of analytics on what you're eating.
your third pudding delivery
It's
the
harder
past
to
week.
sneak
So,
things.
yeah.
Anyway. What do you think? I think that's a wrap.
Wait, do we take any questions? Should we?
We've been going through a bunch of
Yeah,
questions.
we've been kind of doing that
Final
as we
questions?
go.
Let's see if we have any.
Thanks for looking at our mobile stuff, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Ed.
There's a lot more pizza.
Good.
Pizza here?
There's pizza.
There's pizza. Thank you,
All those
Harry, David, and Remy, for your fascinating presentation. And thanks for sharing your expertise and insight into this. I'm really interested in like looking a lot of this up, and I love your use of fonts. And I wanted to mention I judged a furniture. I went to the International Furniture Fair as a judge on a panel of judges to judge different design for different aspects of furniture. So that was this weekend. So I wanted to tell you all about that. So thank you, everybody. It was really great. We didn't have as large an audience as I had thought or hoped. But I really found there's a lot of points of departure from what
We have it taped. I think we can.
Yeah.
I think it's really engaging. Also, I want to thank Artelict for just making this happen.
Yeah,
Really
no,
great.
thanks. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Great. Thanks,
All
guys.
right, everybody.